Welcome back to the Art and Skill of Coaching podcast, where I will teach you how to coach. Today, I'm going to be talking about something I actually coach clients through all the time, and it's something I've even had to work on in my own life. And it's this tension between protecting your feelings and protecting your growth. Sometimes personal development tells us to push harder, right? Go faster, do more. And other times it tells us to slow down, rest, and nurture ourselves. And both can be true. But the real skill here, both for you and for your clients, is knowing how to discern and identifying which one is needed in the moment. Because what I've noticed is that some people are constantly protecting their feelings. They avoid discomfort, they label everything as out of alignment, and they end up stagnant and misplacing blame. And then on the flip side, other people are just constantly self-abandoning, right? They don't care about their feelings. They will hustle when they're tired. They will override their needs and burn themselves out. And neither is going to create or lead to sustainable growth. Because if you're always protecting your feelings, you're going to miss opportunities. Because growth requires discomfort. You're never going to stretch into who you're becoming if you're constantly prioritizing comfort. And if you're always abandoning your feelings, you're going to exhaust yourself. You might achieve some results in the short term, and that's exciting, but you won't be able to sustain them because you're eroding your well-being in the process. And psychology backs us up. You guys know I like to talk facts on this podcast. And so let's talk a little bit about emotion regulation research and neuroscience. So emotion regulation research shows that avoiding discomfort actually amplifies the distress long term. Okay, so protecting your feelings too much and never working through them is actually going to keep you anxious and potentially create reactivity. And then neuroscience also shows that lasting change actually requires both safety and challenge. Safety downregulates the nervous system to get you into parts of the brain and body for creativity and growth and learning and healing, while challenge simultaneously enhances learning and neuroplasticity. Growth requires literally both. So here's the coaching tool I want to offer you today, and it's more a discernment piece, and it's something that you want to ask yourself and your clients. In this area of my life, am I protecting my feelings or my growth? And this is a powerful question because what it does is it reframes discomfort as information, and it helps you discern whether the right move is rest and attunement or courage and stretch. So let's talk about how to use this both with yourself and with your coaching clients. So if you're using this for yourself, maybe you want to ask yourself a series of questions like, am I self-abandoning here? Am I pushing too hard? Or am I protecting my feelings too much? So much so that I'm avoiding discomfort, which is a requirement for growth. Am I unintentionally sacrificing my growth to protect my feelings and my comfort? And if you're using this with a client, what you want to do is listen for which side they lean to. Do they dismiss their own needs in the name of progress, or are they so protective of their comfort that they superficially blame it on self-care or alignment and they never take action or responsibility for the stagnation? Now, instead of telling them what you're noticing, invite them into reflection. In coaching, here's a rule of thumb. If you take notes during these episodes, write this one down. It is always better in coaching to elicit versus insert. So what this might sound like is, do you think in this situation you're protecting your feelings or protecting your growth? Which is being prioritized right now and why? And remain open and curious when you ask these questions versus judgmental and leading. This actually is going to help the client pause and build awareness and ideally see their own patterns clearly and choose. Now, I know this is a nuanced conversation, so let me dive a little deeper real quick and give you a few things to pay attention to that might actually help you identify and discern if your client is sacrificing their growth to protect their feelings. So let's talk about what this might look like. Maybe your client is avoiding and they're disguising it as misalignment. So maybe the client repeatedly says, this just doesn't feel aligned, or, I don't want to force it, or if it's meant to be, it will happen. But you notice that this is their response whenever discomfort arises. And so what this might look like is self-soothing as stagnation, because the client is automatically, which is just a pattern and a habit, leaning on self-care, leaning on rest. And the conversation here is that self-care is important, but it should not be a replacing action, but more so a supportive action. Now, here's another way this might come up. They might be over prioritizing comfort. Comfort's important, right? We don't want to be pushing too hard, but this might be the case if your client continuously chooses the easiest option. Maybe they avoid hard conversations or they delay action because it just feels too overwhelming right now. If this is a pattern of procrastination, be mindful of the justifications, the intellectualization, the rationalizations. Maybe it sounds like, I just don't want to get it wrong, or I don't know enough information, or this isn't the right time, or I need to feel ready, or I need to build my confidence first, or I need a stronger plan. And even though those things might sound true, they might more so be justifications. And they might not just justify their actions, but they might justify their emotions too. Maybe they say something like, I feel scared, so this is not the right move for me right now. Or this feels hard, so this isn't meant for me. But as the coach, you want to help them discern feelings from facts and to help them cultivate courage if this is a pattern of procrastination you're noticing. And this is a tricky one. I got one more for you, and it's when their boundaries are actually blockages. What do I mean by that? Sometimes people will set boundaries that are really walls. Some boundaries are meant to be a little bit more permeable. They're meant to be protective. But if they are walls that are unevaluated, that block their growth, that are no longer needed, or that don't have purpose anymore, it's something to evaluate. So this might sound like, I can't deal with that person at all. They're toxic, when really they're just difficult or they want to avoid conflict. Or I'm not going to do that. That's out of alignment. When really it isn't even in conflict with their values, it's just uncomfortable. Again, boundaries are meant to create space for safety. But if the boundary is preventing your client from moving forward towards something that they want or need or is in alignment with their values, it's often protection in disguise. Okay, so let's start wrapping this up because obviously I could talk about this all day, but when you and or your clients learn this skill, how to discern when am I protecting my feelings versus protecting my growth, the results can be really powerful. Emotions become more accurate because you're no longer hijacked by these unevaluated patterns of avoidance or burnout. Decision-making improves because you're being honest about what you actually need and self-aware around, do I need rest or do I need stretch? Do I take aligned action or do I need to be more attuned? And you stop wasting energy guessing what you need and instead grow in ways that are both effective and sustainable and in a direction that's actually going to serve you. I've said this before, but growth is nuanced and coaching can be hard. And that's why we have this podcast and why I try to make these big tools and theories tangible, because sometimes you do need to pull back and nurture yourselves, and other times you need to lean in and you need to embrace that discomfort, both as the coach and as the client. And your work as the coach is to discern which is needed in the moment. And if you want more coaching tips or tools like this, make sure you're subscribed to the Coach Question of the Week. Every single Monday, I will send a powerful insight or coaching tool straight into your inbox so that you can really kick off the week strong or send it to your clients. It's completely free. I'll throw the link in the show notes for you. And if you want to go deeper and have a bigger toolbox with things like what we talked about on today's episode, definitely check out the Art and Skill of Coaching. This is my advanced certification program, and it's designed to help coaches just like you have more confidence, more depth, and more precision in your coaching, and it's 100% science-backed. So we only run 2 certifications a year, and the wait list for our next class is open right now. The link is in the show notes, so definitely hop on there. And one last thing, guys, if this episode did resonate with you, please leave us a review and share it with another coach or on your socials. Your support is super helpful, and I encourage you to subscribe so you never miss another training to help you master the art and skill of coaching.